Yes, special thank you to our liaison, Katie, and to Michael, who has provided just terrific staff support throughout the process. On our agenda for tonight, I did a quick summary of the major duties we've now completed. And man, reading through that list, I got tired just reading the list. We did so much stuff. It's all going to be there in place for next year. I think we've really made a very solid contribution here to the future election process for the village, not just this year's election. And I want to thank you all and just start out with that. Um, First item of business is to approve the April 1 committee meetings. Jen sent me an email saying she's on her way home and will be a little bit late, but she's coming. So the three of us who are here should go right ahead and proceed. And I think Paul Weller is going to join us shortly. Michael, if you have a second, could you give Paul a call? And John, you can unmute yourself. Okay, so first item of business, approve the April 1 committee meetings. Thanks to Jen for drafting them. And do we have a motion to approve or edit them?
I move to approve.
John?
Yeah, okay, I approve. Yeah, I'm thinking. Go ahead.
Okay, you're allowed to think. All right. Having been motioned and seconded, all in favor of approving the April 1st committee meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, 3-0. Okay, thank you. The date for our next meeting, we need to have a meeting at the end of May or early June. And I'm looking at Monday, June, what is it? 3rd. Monday nights have seemed to work pretty well for us for meetings. Are you guys free Monday, June 3rd for a meeting?
I'm looking.
John,
Oh,
does
no.
that work?
I'm going to be
No?
away. No.
Okay,
You know,
what
at
works?
this time, I don't have a problem. Why so early though? I mean, why can't it just? go a
Oh, it could
little
be
further
mid-June.
out?
Yeah, our committee actually wraps up on June 30th, so we can do it anytime in June. And the next Monday in June is the 10th, and then there's the 17th. We should do it before the council meeting. The council meeting in June is June 20th. So Monday,
I suggest the 10th. I'll be
10th?
away after 14th. Yeah.
Okay. John, June 10th?
I mean, you know, before the 8th or 9th or whatever is fine. But I mean, how many more meetings are we gonna have before this thing wraps up, Marty? You're saying,
Only one. We have one more meeting and a party. That's what we've
well,
got.
is this the June 8th meeting or 9th meeting?
No.
June 9th is going to be a party with some pizza and chocolate cake.
Right, I understand that.
But we have one more working meeting to do.
And when's that gonna be?
June 10th is what Naomi just recommended.
Okay,
June
right.
10th?
okay.
That's good. All right. June 10th. And we'll ask Jen and Paul if that's good for them when they come on. And that's just the final wrap up. We do need to do a final end of fiscal year report for the council. And that's what we'll do at that meeting with recommendations for next year. And I must say, we're leaving next year's committee so much better off than when we started with 5 different documents, as you all recall, that we had to consolidate. Okay. Moving on to the first action item. Before they do that, we have a resident here. Hello, Susan. Do you have any comments, questions, or suggestions before we get into the action items?
No, I'm just all excited to give you guys fantastic feedback on that campaign forum. I thought y'all did an amazing job with the questions, that you just organized them really well, and it was incredibly efficient, and thank you. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Hold on a second. I got a call here from Paul Weller. Hello, Paul. All right. This is, yeah, Michael, can you call Paul Weller and give him the link again? He says he's having trouble getting on.
I can't give it to him over the phone, but I did just email it to him again.
All right, all right.
It was in the wrap up, and it went out in an email last night, and it's on the website on the agenda.
Okay, look on the website under the agenda. The agenda on the website has the link, Paul. Okay. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye. Okay, Susan, thank you for their kind words. And discussion of the election form is indeed the first item on our action items. I want to caution the committee members that we can say anything that we feel moved to say about the form itself, about the mechanics, about the superb job that Jen and Naomi did, but we should not, as committee members, make any comments about the content of the candidates' answers. Everybody clear on that dividing line? All right,
Yes.
we don't comment on the candidates, but we can certainly comment on what a fantastic job you guys did. I thought you were just wonderful. So Nomi, thank you. When Jen comes
Thank
on, we'll
you.
thank.
It's always nice to hear good things about yourself.
Well, you just did a bang up job, as Susan said. John, you have any comments about the forum?
No, not at all. Here again, I think Jen and Naomi did a great job. I expressed that before. And
Mhm.
we'll move on.
Okay. Katie, do you want to add anything?
Just wanted to echo everybody else. I think Jen and Naomi have a calling. They could have a whole other job, being like pundits or speakers. I mean, you could have a talk show, maybe a
I-
podcast, maybe a Village of Mars Vision podcast. You two are natural.
I used to do those kinds of things, actually more behind the scenes. So it was okay to be in front of the camera, but it's not the
Right.
comfortable place for me. Okay.
Just phenomenal.
Well, yeah, you were superb. You were superb. Okay, let's go over to action item number 2, which is a report from our really wonderful verification contractor, Julian. The floor is yours. Thank you again for the ace work. Bring us up to speed on where we are here at the end of the process here.
All right, hey everyone. Thanks for inviting me as always. I don't have a ton for you this evening since we're really at the tail end of the project, but I'll go over some of the basics while we're with where we're at. The voter roll sent to the contractor earlier this month had a total of 628 residents on it, consisting of all the people who were confirmed qualified voters as well as the people in that likely eligible category. A total of 121 residents were removed from the rolls, and this includes all the people who were marked as ineligible by committee members, as well as the folks who did not respond to the outreach attempts from the office. There were about 42 people who were left in that likely eligible category. So, if there were any updates since then, you can send them to me, but either way, they should have already received their ballots. While you already have that final list that was sent to the mail vote contractor, I'll be working on the finishing touches for the master spreadsheet this week. And that final, that document is going to have all those notes, comments, rationales, and stuff that were stripped out of the that final vote, the final list that went to the contractor. I'm also more or less done with the SOP document as well. Pretty much all that's left is for me to finish writing the final steps of the project, which, since we're not quite there yet, I haven't put it in, but let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see what I've done so far. Michael, can you enable screen sharing?
Yes, hang on one second. And there's Paul Weller as well.
Yay, welcome, Paul.
Awesome. All right, and I'm not going to go into this in a exhaustive detail or anything, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a taste of what's going to be in it. So I kind of go over the main resources that I use to do the verification. I go over the first steps with in the initial formatting of the list with all the columns and things like that should be there. I have some screenshots in there as well, kind of showing you how to sort the list as well. I have a section on the gathering committee feedback. I'll have a little bit more after I'm done with this, showing you the SOP. With how I did that, how I sent the link around, and y'all were able to enter your comments on the Excel sheet. I've got some screenshots of here's what it should look at this point. And then more on the actual verification process with more of the columns that's going to be there. I go over how you can look up the the residents in the property database that the state keeps. I go over some of like the eligibility in like those different categories and kind of like how to determine that. As well as kind of like, you know, some like, here's what the list is going to look like at this point in the process. And then I go over a bit into the secondaries verification. So like after the after I've gone through the entire list the first time, a little bit of the process here. And then I have a bit about preparing the list for like the mail vote contractor, where I go over the fields that should still remain in there, as well as the mail merge setup, so that you're able to like get those columns prepped for the mail vote contractor with the formulas and examples in there as well. Which it's a kind of complicated, so I tried to include a lot of screenshots just so it's pretty straightforward.
This is great.
And that is pretty much all I have in there for now, and pretty much all I was planning on adding left. Anything else I was going to add was going to be, I guess, like, you know, the last steps that we do over this next week or so. And I was also thinking about including a section with like helpful notes and tips with like just like, I guess, notes about like sorting things and stuff like that. I don't have to include that if you don't think it would be helpful, but if so, I would be happy to add that section.
My take on that, Julian, is yes, please add any tips, suggestions, recommendations, and handy hints that you may have for us. This was really the first time that we've done, to my knowledge, in the history of VMA in 40 years, an outside audit and review and verification of our voter roll. And having somebody as systematic and thorough as you do it has just been terrific. So yeah, any tips you have, any recommendations you have for things we could do better next year, or I mean, obviously one thing is we could start sooner so that it's less of a time crunch at the end. That's already on sort of my notes. But any suggestions you have for ways that we can do this? I mean, at one point we even I didn't get a chance to look down at your full list of sources, but I know one of the references we used was not just the village residents list, which this will help improve immensely your work this year, but also like local real estate agents for renters and you know, recent sales. That turned out to be a good thing. I think that the village survey that we did, the VMA voter survey, I mean, that helped confirm, I think what, 69 people responded to that, 2 per house. That's like 140 voters confirmed right there. So there were lots of innovations this year that we tried for the first time and that seemed to work well, and would really love you to do a little write-up on anything that you did that you thought worked well, anything that the village did that you thought worked well, and anything that we didn't do that we should think about for next year. I think that would be tremendously helpful. So this SOP report is really going to be the icing on the cake, and thank you for doing it.
Yeah, and I do mention a couple of those things in the SOP in like the secondary verification section about the voter survey, the move in and move out tracking log. I also talk a little bit about the street captain reports and kind of mention, while, you know, you can't completely rely on the street captains, not all of them might be able to participate, but per the vote you guys made earlier, they are authorized to, you know, confirm people as qualified voters. So I do talk a bit about that in the SOP as well.
Yeah,
In
we were
terms of
able to.
suggestions for next year, I don't have a lot, but more or less it's what you said. I know that the timeline is somewhat constrained by election regulations, but I would still recommend starting earlier if possible. You know, maybe at like the beginning of January rather than the end. Because yeah, I know you guys were kind of scrambling to reach out to all those unverified folks at the end of the process. And I think it would have been a lot easier if you guys had rather than just that 1 week, if you had maybe like 2 or 3 extra weeks, then perhaps we could have set up like a schedule for which, you know, tackling one street over a couple days, then before moving on to the next.
Anything like that, put it in the report. We'd love to hear it from you. Nomi, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Julian, if I were to take notes of the rich data that you've just shared with us, what is the top of the line, or what is the headline So for example, how many did we start with? Can you tell me how many names did we start with?
Yeah, just a moment. I just need to pull up that.
I
doc-
actually can answer that. There were 747 people on the 23 voter roll last year, 747.
Okay, and we ended with,
628. Or
okay,
628 people received the ballot. But I like in my final list that I'm sending to you, that I'll be sending to you, I include all the people who were removed just so that you are able to track who used to be on there.
no, I understand. Okay, so we ended with 628. That's 100 and almost, what's 120 fewer?
121 people were removed from the rolls.
Okay, and how many did we, no, how many did we add?
We added 9 or
I'm
10.
not sure. It was only a couple people.
I
but-
did a test run on that. We added at least 9. And we've
Okay.
had a new one since then. So we've actually added 10 people to the voter roll, new voters.
Okay. Now, do we know whether these were new because they just moved into the neighborhood? Or because they? Go ahead.
One was an 18-year-old who just turned 18 this year. One is a
Okay.
new person who just moved in, and I'm not sure about the others.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me I actually do have on one of my older lists, I also had a list of the people who were potentially eligible. So let me just pull that up real quick.
excuse me.
Yeah, so yeah, I noted that there were 12 people who I noted should have received a ballot and were eligible. I know I sent that to you early on in the process, but I don't know if they made it on the final one. But in any case, I can send that over as well.
Okay, I just wanted the very basic numbers in my head. You know, what did we learn from this? So many fewer, lots ineligible, a few new ones to be added.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay,
And one of the services, Julian, that you really did that I thought was immensely helpful was check the obits and the reports from family members about people who had died. Because, I mean, technically, not that we would ever do anything unlawful or that any committee would, but it is unlawful to send ballots to dead people. The state tends to frown on that. So that was, if that had been all that you had done was to sort out people who were no longer alive, that would have been a service in itself. That would have been, a big help. And Boris at the county voter roll says that he is so grateful to us for doing this. Boris called today to thank us for our work. He's looking forward to our report at the end of the process on who we verified and who we found not residents. And he's particularly concerned about, the people that we confirmed had died, because those are people that he would like to be able to remove from the county voter roll. And so, this is a public service on a bigger level than just Martin's Additions. It's a public service to the county as well that you've done here, Julian. And the final report, I think any suggestions you have, we'd like to hear them, because we are very pleased with your work and very impressed with your thoroughness and your carefulness about being sure to follow the procedures and really know, who's here and who's not as a resident. And thank you. Any other
thank you.
comments?
I'll add my thanks as well. Just one last question. Do we know how many people were on the list that we started with who had died last year? Do we know?
I mean, I could look. I don't know off the top of my head, but
No, I
I
understand.
could sort the people who all I would need to do is look at the people who were on that on the list of people who were removed.
Yes, I would appreciate that. That would be an interesting piece of data. Okay,
And Susan, do you have a question? Susan Kahn?
Yeah, I just think it's so important for passing on this institutional knowledge. Like, it seems like maybe in the past, some of the people on the some people just didn't know how to do this kind of voter verification role or process. And so I just want to make sure it doesn't just stay with Marty inside your head and just the people here who hear it, but knowing that we have our manager and maybe it could be put in some sort of I guess your email folder, you know, you can, or some way just to make sure that whoever's on this committee in the
Jen.
future sees that there is this
Mhm.
process that was done. This is how it was done. This is the document that Julian, you know, produced this excellent work. And, you know, I just want to make sure it gets passed on and doesn't get like, oh, restarting the wheel or whatever it's called, reinventing it next year, you know. So I think it sounds like it was a really important, valid, well done process, and that we should make sure we remember it somehow. Yeah, thank you.
Well, and that's what I'm aiming to do with this SOP. That should, it pretty much in detail covers pretty much every single thing I did in this process. And like I said, I'll be adding some, you know, random helpful tips and stuff like that and suggestions at the end. Well, one other suggestion I didn't get to was regarding the initial feedback when I was gathering that from y'all on the committee. We didn't do it this time around, but I know that like not everybody here is experienced with Excel as I am. So what I would recommend doing next year is like I did this time, sending it around to the people who are comfortable, you know, with adding their feedback to the Excel sheet. But then once those people have added all their feedback, we could potentially print out the list and then send that around to anybody so that, you know, like one committee member can look through, mark up, like make notes on anybody who hasn't, like on anybody that they can comment on, pass it on to the next committee member, and so on. And then once those people have added their feedback on that paper form, they can give that back, and the contractor can enter that into the spreadsheet.
That's a nice accommodation because Julian, you're right. Not everybody on future committees might be, you know, good at spreadsheets, but they can all look at a piece of paper. Nomi, you had your hand up again. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on what Susan said. I'm advocating, and I think Marty and I've discussed this, that we put all of this, the whole elections process, including the voter roll piece, in a document that's like an operations manual that the future elections committees can follow to the T unless there are some necessary changes. And we talked about needing, it would be great to have an intern help us with putting that document together in a way that's attractive, that's well formatted and easy to access, and maybe have several copies for future elections committee members to have. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Katie, but do you think Hannah might be interested in a internship job at the council this summer?
Oh, well, thank you for considering, Hannah. I don't know if it would be a conflict of interest because she's my daughter, and she actually has a job this summer. She's going to be a camp counselor at the JCC camp. So, but
Okay.
I am very pro intern, getting an intern for the VMA office and for committees. I think it would be a terrific way to work, earn SSL hours, and it's the ultimate community service. And you know, I think there's all kinds of learning opportunities for an intern. So I'm definitely a proponent of that. And to answer Susan Kahn, all of Julian's research is phenomenal. I mean, I feel like this document is going to serve many purposes. It's going to help us also with updating our directory, which is very needed. And I really think that all of the work that you all have done will definitely be some sort of in a manual to pass on to the next committee. It has to be, because you've done such a phenomenal job. I mean, it reminds me of when I've been on positions on PTAs and my daughter's nursery school, and there was a day called Truck Day, and if you were in charge of Truck Day, you had to get the Truck Day binder because that had all the important trucks, and you do not want to, disappoint nursery school kids with truck day. So I feel like this is a truck day manual. Yes. So absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Maybe you can ask Hannah if any of her friends would be
Right,
interested.
yeah, and absolutely. And I'm on all of the local school listservs and our
Oh,
listserv
good.
for Rollingwood. I mean, we could always, do that. And I think, Michael's on mute right now, but I mean, I can't speak for Michael, but Michael, I'm sure would do well with working with an intern and would probably have all kinds of tasks for an intern to help. So yeah, it's got my vote, definitely.
Okay.
We may recommend that in our committee report at the next council meeting.
Yeah.
John, hand up?
Yeah. I'm really thinking that with all this updated information that we have, it would certainly feed into a new telephone directory for the residents of Martin's Addition. I mean, of course, that's not in our purview. I realize that, but certainly I would imagine that Michael and his organization, whoever is responsible for it, would certainly be able to use the updated information. And I would look forward to it. I don't know how much more work it would take to get an updated directory. But anyway, it's just my thoughts. Okay, I don't know.
You're-
Absolutely, because we do it. We put the new directory out every other year, so this is the year. So it will. I think I have that right, Michael. But yeah, I know Michael already plans to tap into this work. Yeah.
And
Great.
it's immensely valuable. I mean, you're both right, because one of the biggest obstacles that we found as committee members was when we tried to do the outreach, one-on-one to confirm the unconfirmed, and the phone numbers weren't right, and there were no emails, and we, literally had to knock on doors. I mean, Jen, how many doors did you knock on Delafield and Thornapple? So
Too many.
too
Like
many,
7 or
yeah.
8.
And so again, that's important feedback for future committees. The more emails we have on the village office list of residents, the more complete that is, and the more phone numbers that are accurate and updated, the better. And Michael, we hope that this process on the voter roll gives you Godspeed to do that, and let us know if we can help. Jen, I want to circle back for a minute because you missed the first few minutes of the meeting when we were all singing your praises profusely for your wonderfully professional job at the forum. And I just wanted to come back and let you know that every single person that you're looking at on this Zoom thinks you were just tremendous. I think Katie's word was stupendous, phenomenal. And that was certainly 100% consensus for both you and Naomi.
Yeah, I think Jen, you and Naomi should host a podcast. That's what I'm thinking.
So
We
thank
could,
you.
but
You
really,
you were,
all credit goes to Naomi and you, Marty. I mean, I as I said, I felt like a newscaster, but it was
Well,
fun.
you were an
And
awfully good newscaster. That's all I can say. Thank you. And the tone of that was important. I would caution everybody while we're back on that subject again to be very careful when you talk about it. We can praise the quality of the questions that people sent in. We can praise Michael for having not one but 2 recording devices plus doing the timer. We can sing your praises, Naomi and Jen, as the moderators, but we really need to be very careful as committee members not to say anything about the answers that the candidates gave, right? We are not going to comment on candidates at any point in this process. After the election's over, you can say what you want, but not before. Everybody
yeah.
clear on that boundary? Okay, and again, kudos. Julian, do you have anything else for us here? This sounds like exactly what we need to wrap up the process this year.
Not really. That's pretty much it. But I did want to give a big thanks to all of you, especially you, Marty, for just all the work you put in, knocking on doors, going out and calling people. Wouldn't have been able to do it without you, and your village is really, really lucky to have folks like you who are willing to put in so much work to, benefit your neighbors. And I also wanted to give a big thanks to Michael for all his help in this process. It's really it was really nice to be able to work with you again, man. It's been too long.
Yeah,
Amen
thank,
to all of
thank
that. Michael, thanks from all of us too.
Yeah, thank you, Julian, for all your work serving this village and serving this committee. When you do send over the closeout SOP and all of the final reports, if you wouldn't mind just sending that all over to me as well, and kind of maybe putting it all in one email, even if I might have seen it before, it can't hurt to send it to me again.
Yeah,
So
no
all of
problem.
your spreadsheets, any working documents, I'll make sure those are all in the file. And then once that's done, you can just send over your final invoice and we'll be all set.
In terms of the process here, I agree completely. And what I'd like to do, Julian, is have you send us your sort of a final draft SOP report. And just have the committee, you know, have a few days to look that over, just in case people have any additional questions. And then we'll get back to you pretty quickly on that, and then you can give the final to the entire committee and to Michael, as Michael just laid out. So do send us your near final draft, just so we can take a look at it as you know, take some time to look at it in a few days, and then the final, and there will be a very, very glowing thank you letter from us at the end of the process, because you really did just do an extraordinarily good job here. Any other comments or questions for Julian while we've got him on the line? Paul, did you have anything you
Just
wanted
a
to
big
add?
thank you.
Paul, unmute yourself.
What I was going
Here.
to say, Julian's doing a wonderful job, and we're very fortunate to have him. And I hope all of this is documented in some form and put into a folder for permanent use in the availability in the village office. I think that's important, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel each year. So.
For
Amen
sure.
to that.
I'm planning on working on the final report, probably towards the end of this week. I'll try to get that done over the weekend, along with the SOP. And in that report, I'll include the SOP kind of in that final report, but I'll also save the SOP as a second document. And Michael, I'll save it as both a PDF and I'll send you the Word file, just so that you can edit it later down the line if you want to add stuff, or you know, just, if things change down the line, just so you don't have to start from scratch with that in the future. And same thing with like my spreadsheets, even the ones with like a ton of colors and stuff. Like I'll send you a bit more a complicated one, just in case you want to use that for anything else down the line.
That sounds good. And again, give us the, you know, sort of final draft so the committee can give it its blessing, and then it'll be officially final and go to Michael and to the committee with our profound thanks, Julian. I hope you had some fun. It was quite a challenging project.
Well, yeah, I mean, I actually did, as I'm one of those weird freaks who actually kind of enjoys using Excel, so it was kind of nice.
Well, you did a superb job. Anybody else got anything for Julian? All
Great
right,
job,
well, then,
Julian.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you all
Thanks
around.
all of you, and I will catch you later. I'll be in touch.
Okay, we'll look forward to your final draft on the whole shebang.
Yep.
All righty. Take it easy.
Thank you. Progress report. The ballots are starting to arrive, and Eclectic mailed them all right on time on Friday morning, and they do, I can vouch for it, have return postage on them. They do have the postal tracking on them. Michael, the tracking email that you sent up seems to be working fine from what I could see from the test mailing that Eclectic did to the 5 committee members. So as far as I can see, things are cooking right along here. I don't see any problems at the moment, and hopefully there won't be any to surprise us. But I mean, all the pitfalls that have happened in the last 4 years, I want to commend this committee because we've managed to avoid all of them. So far, so good. Now, there could be new ones that we didn't anticipate. That's always possible. But we really have done, I think, a superb job as a committee, and as with Michael and with Katie's help, to just, address the problems that occurred in the past and make sure they did not happen this year. And, good process produces good outcomes. So the process here was important.
Well,
Anyone else
we
have any
received
questions?
this today, and it's well done. I think the ballot packet. Yeah.
y'all approved it, you know. I think, one of the pieces of unseen invisible work that we did was we significantly improved the voting instructions from the packet last year, both in terms of format and content and clarity. We significantly improved the information that's on the left side of the ballot, again, in terms of format and content and clarity. It should not need to be redone next year other than to change the dates perhaps, and change the names. But what we've done is set up a template here for how to do this right from now on. And that was a heavy lift and a lot more work than I anticipated as we would going into this back in October when we started. I had thought that more of it had been done than had been. And so we had to basically, like I say, clean a lot of things up. And we did. And I'm very confident that the model, the template we developed this year for all these documents, including the committee reports to the council, including the newsletter articles, including the updates and the weekly wrap-ups, including the ballot packets itself. I mean, the new voter eligibility form is something that needed to exist for the last, 4 years. We had it before that, but we've needed to, now we have that in place, officially approved by the council. So we really have done the heavy lifting here. Next year should be a piece of cake. And we will have all of this, like you said, ready to rock and roll. Anything else on the progress report? Any questions about eclectic or the ballots or any of that? Yes, Nomi.
I have, so, the one of the things that we haven't discussed formally, and I wonder if it needs to be, is the role of the liaison, the council liaison. What is the job of the council liaison? And how can we be sure that that job includes adherence to the procedures that the council approved this year?
Katie, would you like to address that?
Sure. I mean, so yes, next year, someone else on the council will be the liaison to the committee. It's usually someone in office who's wouldn't be, their term's not up for reelection that year. So yes, I will bid you adieu in a few weeks. So in the next few weeks, or between June, July, actually after June 30th, actually, early July, we'll be looking at or putting a call out for volunteers for committees for next year. And that's also around when we decide who on the council will be liaison to which committee. So we haven't talked and met yet. But it would probably be one of the three candidates who are up on the ballot. I'm assuming they win and get another term. One of them will probably be the liaison, most likely, because Andrew and I, we will be entering an election cycle. But I mean, as far as establishing this as a standard operating procedure, and making sure that council liaison adheres to it, or advocates for it, that's it's really on them. Honestly, it's their choice, so of course I will obviously be highly encouraging them to stick with it and say it's a well-oiled machine. All you do is really show up and watch, and that's really all we're supposed to do as liaison. We take things back to our colleagues, and we we're the go-between, but I don't weigh in, I don't say anything, I don't really matter. I'm just here to watch. I'm a fly on the wall, and that's what your liaison should be. So the committee should run itself, really. So but yes, I don't know who will be who will work with the committee.
Yeah, it's not necessarily of who, but what.
Mhm.
I've served on task forces and committees. Your presence at our meetings has been really important.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I'm thinking that we should have some kind of a job description about, if you want this job, here's what the expectation is. So, a few sentences about attending the meetings, adhering, making sure the manual is followed until changes are made.
Mhm.
And maybe that's all we would say, but I would hope that there would be some accountability on the part of the council to make sure that this work is implemented.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, you have, advocate for that, obviously, and I would like to see a continuation of this procedure to next year. But and when we meet, whether it's administratively or at the next meeting, it would be the July meeting, I think. I mean, I'm not spilling any secrets, but we are Michael will attest, we are the hardest people to organize. There's just 5 of us. And to get our summer schedule to pick a day where we're going to all sit down and talk about future committees, that's Michael's probably one of your bigger headaches, right, Michael?
I'm not
But-
saying anything.
Yes.
Wise man, Michael. But Katie,
is very
I do want to emphasize that I completely agree with Naomi's point, which is that the council's support for good election procedures has been such a contentious issue for 4 years now. We've come out from that period of disarray with finally some really, really good written procedures. I mean, it was kind of a shock to me to find out that we had 5 different documents last year that this committee had to consolidate and put into some kind of common sense, piece. I mean, like, wow, that was a heavier lift than I expected. And now that we have it, we should not ever, ever discard it. It would be extremely disrespectful to the work of this committee and your work, Katie, as our liaison, which is much more than just being present at meetings. You've been tremendously helpful. For next year's council liaison to just flippantly discard any of that. There was a considerable amount of concern on this committee, as you may recall, on January 4th, when we received from Arthur a memorandum that seemed to disregard quite a bit of the committee's very meticulous work on putting these procedures together in a way that incorporated everything that had been approved last year and improved on it and consolidated it and streamlined it and got it all into like 12 pages. And then to have somebody edit that with such carelessness and lack of even reading it was, I can tell you, very dismaying to me as the committee chair and very upsetting to a number of the committee members. I would not want to see that kind of disregard for good, solid work ever again for any committee on the part of any council member. And I am not going to say more than that, other than the fact that good work deserves respect. And this has been an incredibly solid accomplishment this year, as you know, because you've helped us do it. So thank you for all your support. And let's see what we can do to make sure there is some council accountability toward future committees and toward future election procedures so that we do not go through the turmoil that we've had, ever since 2020. We had very smooth elections up to 2020. And at that point, the council intervened and imposed new election procedures. And it's taken us 4 years now to get back to the point where we have good, transparent, workable procedures again. We now have them thanks to the work that this team has done. And I would not want to see them discarded lightly or cavalierly or anybody's work be so disrespected. So enough said.
No,
Katie,
thank you for sharing that, and absolutely, again, I think part of not only having an A team in place and the professionalism that you've brought this year, the train is back on track in terms of, I feel like relations have improved. But does that mean it's a smooth ride just yet? No. Not exactly with some of maybe my colleagues or things that have happened in the past. And, we're just going to keep moving forward and keep with this train. That's how I view it. And that's what I'm going to advocate. So.
thank you. That's what we need. You've been a champion all along. Does anyone want to add anything on that? Jen, you got any comments? Want to chip in? Paul, Jen, John?
My concern, go ahead, Paul. You have a
No.
comment?
Go ahead. No.
okay, once we turn this information over to the council, suppose the council really, obviously, we've done a good job, there's no doubt about it, and Katie's an advocate for us and so forth. But my concern is that suppose they don't like one segment of it or something, and obviously what the council has, I guess, the wherewithal to, hey, do away with it or modify it or throw it out altogether. Yeah, I mean, that would be my concern. I mean, what guarantee that we have that this is a good stand-up procedure that we developed and hopefully we'll go forward? I mean, really, it's at the discretion of the council from what I see. Am
Hey,
I wrong,
John.
Katie?
Hey, John, all we
Yeah.
can see is your mouth.
I'm here.
We can't see your face.
Oh, okay.
But I heard
That
you loud
better?
and clear. Yes.
Okay.
You're
Katie,
fine.
would you like to respond to John?
No, John, you raise valid concerns and points. Absolutely. And yeah, you've all worked so hard. And whenever I've worked on a project, one of my biggest fears is it going to be all for naught? And I don't think it will be. I mean, I think this was an excellent plan you had put in place. I mean, even starting last year, I think there was a movement amongst the council to be, let's get a plan in place that's solid and just, that we just change the dates, but that's the plan. And that's always been the majority of the council's intention and plan. But it hasn't been a smooth process and there have been differences. But I mean, as far as I haven't heard from any of the rest of them, and I haven't heard any complaints about this committee, or I haven't heard really honestly anything, to tell you the truth, from any one of my colleagues about this committee only to date. So I'm going to assume no news is good news. And I think that this plan has worked and it's solid, and you've all worked so well together. This is the first year there haven't been resignations off committees, which was my number one goal, because I found that to be most, heart-wrenching, because this is your time. You're the volunteers. So obviously I don't want your time to be all for naught. So this, again, I'm one of five. I know I always say that, that's my line, but I do really advocate for all of you. And I don't see, I'm sure the council has appreciate to date what you've all put into this, and I wouldn't see why this plan wouldn't kind of carry on to the future. So at this point,
Katie,
Paul?
well thought out and said, thank you.
well, thank you.
Katie, I
that's-
look at your responsibility and your job is a two-way street, and report back to us from the council on what they're thinking and doing and what their reaction may be to what we've done.
Yeah.
So I would hope that it's a two-way street. Yeah.
It's a two-way street. We have a respectful rapport. I think we don't always get one another's jokes. I think that's because of different reasons. But this council is very interesting. I think we're an interesting body in that we're truly five individuals. And if you look at how we vote on anything, I can't really predict how my colleagues are going to vote. I know how I'm going to vote on for whatever's on our agenda for whatever ordinance, but I don't know. I don't know how Andrew's thinking, or Jeff's thinking, or Susan, or Arthur. So, but we have a respectful rapport, and I found my reports, and when I've gone to the council on your behalf to ask for for Julian's work, or to ask for the voter roll form, amazingly this year it's all been a 5-0 vote on anything I've taken back to them. So I'm going to keep my streak alive. I think I'm on a good streak. This is a winning streak.
Go, Katie. You go, girl.
Yep.
Jen, you
Don't
want to add
push the streak.
anything? Nomi? Jen, Nomi, anything to add? No?
No, nothing to add. I yield.
Okay, Nomi? Your points, Nomi,
No.
about having
No.
this all in a manual. I couldn't agree more. And
Right.
that's one of the ways that we do make sure that it carries on so that nobody has to reinvent this stuff ever again, at least not in our lifetime.
You've all worked so hard. Put it in the manual. It should be an election Bible as far as I'm concerned, but that's me. So
Okay,
put it in a manual and we'll pass it along. So
will do. Okay, team, again, kudos on just, it was much more work than I anticipated, and you all just stepped up again and again and again to handle each piece of it and handle it beautifully and professionally. And I couldn't ask for a better team to work with. It was just an absolute joy. And I'll say that again before we finish out this year. All right, going to the next item on the agenda, number 4, final steps in the election process. Let's talk about the Dropbox on May 7th. Eclectic is going to have it here, they promised, by 3 p.m. We need to have it operational by 5 p.m. because from 5 to 8 is when we need to supervise it. And the requirements there under the state regs for Dropboxes is that there be 2 of us physically present at that table with the Dropbox at all times. That means that we need to have one sort of person as a backup in case somebody needs to, go use a restroom. Because we do have a supervision requirement by law from 5 to 8 p.m. And Jen, I sent you an email earlier saying, I know with your schedule, you're probably going to be on the second shift. I think we needed two shifts, one from like 5 to 6:30 and one from 6:30 to 8 or 8:15. We'll actually finish up around 8:15 because one of the things we as a committee need to do at 8 o'clock when the polls close, when the box closes, is count the number of envelopes we have and put them in a big manila envelope and sign the envelope and hand it to Eclectic's representative, who will take the envelopes and the physical Dropbox back to New Jersey that night. So that's all set up exactly the way we wanted to have it set up. And again, Eclectic has cooperated with our request on that. So my question to you right now is, who wants to do the basically 4:30 to 6:30 shift, and who wants to do the 6:30 to 8:15 shift?
I'll do one. I don't care, whichever.
I'll do the later shift, please.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm definitely the later shift, so.
I
So
can do
sec-
I can do an earlier shift.
Yeah,
okay.
I can do an earlier shift too.
All right, John and Paul, I'm putting you on the 4:30 shift, so we're ready to rock and roll at 5. And Nomi and Jen will be on the second shift. I'll be your backup. I'll be there probably for the most of it. Spell you if you need to take a break. And Paul, one other note for you. I'm going to need you to circle back at 8 o'clock because you and I are supposed to sign off the certification on the final voter roll, because we can continue to add new voters between now and May 7th, 8 p.m. As you all know, the regs provide for that. And that's a very voter-friendly thing to do, to be able to add new voters right through May 7th. So I really support that. But the final voter roll is going to look a little different than the one we sent to Electech on April 7th. So we need to certify that final voter roll as being the official 2004 voter roll. So Paul, you're at the early shift with John, but you're also going to need to pop back at 8:05 and help do that certification form. Okay?
Well, Martin's Additions pick up dinner at La Ferme in between that 4:30 and 8. You think?
We used to do that back in the day. We'd get sandwiches from the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Coffee shops no longer open in the evenings. I don't know that we're going to get a catered dinner from La Ferme, but I am more than happy as your chair to pick up whatever sandwiches you all want me to pick up from wherever you want me to pick them up, and make sure you have sandwiches, soft drinks, and anything else you need to staff that Dropbox for those 3 hours. So I'll pick up your sandwich orders early.
Marty,
Michael?
on that point, the village is buying a ton of sandwiches from the Olympia Cafe, and we'll have those there on a table with some chips and drinks and those types of things. And there will also be an ice cream truck there. And we've reached out to the market and asked them to provide something as well. So we are hoping to have some food. If the whole village shows up, maybe not, but we'll make sure to save one for you, Paul.
Two comments to that, Michael.
Can we-
Number one,
can we
thanks, that's
earmark
great.
some for the election committee, Michael? A section for them for.
Sure,
dinner?
yeah.
Right, grab a box and put some sandwiches for us in the office to make sure that we do get fed. Michael,
I
that's
did have a question.
terrific.
How many chairs did you need there, you think?
Three.
Three
Three.
for your table. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
three chairs,
I'm
one-
hiring a company this year to bring in big tables and chairs for all of us. So, and if
Mhm.
there's raining, I have a tent set aside for you all. So,
And don't
Ace
forget the
work.
Merlot.
what was that?
Which,
I said,
John?
don't forget the Merlot.
we're
This
not
is a
allowed to
B-
drink on duty, team.
This is a BYOB event.
Right. 8:05, you break out the Merlot, John. 8:05 after we're off duty. Michael, thank you. That's your typical wonderfully efficient, good planning. And thank you for setting aside some sandwiches to feed the team here. That makes life easier. Okay, second thing, certification we talked about, and Paul, that's you and I, at the end at 8, a little after 8. And the final thing on our agenda here is our final official duty, the vote counting session on May 21st. Michael, we'll need you to, we'll provide some announcements for that because that can be public. Voters and residents are allowed to observe that. We'll give you a committee announcement about, people, signing up for it so that you'll know how many people might need to sign in on that Zoom. And we'll look to you to do the logistics of coordinating that with Eclectic. Electec has its own cameras at its facility in New Jersey. For those of you who've never observed a vote counting, they do it all on camera. We can watch it all. And it's especially important on the 21st to have all 5 of us there right at the beginning, because that's when we need to go through any non-conforming envelopes and decide whether they can be cured and start that ballot curing process. Hopefully, everyone will have signed their envelope this year, and there won't be any problem envelopes, and we'll get through that very quickly. Then they open the outer envelopes, and Eclectic takes out the inner privacy envelopes and puts them all on a big pile on the table and mixes them around. And then they have a machine that zips right through to open all the privacy envelopes. And then they feed the ballots, the physical paper ballots, through their vote counting machines, which is kind of fun to watch for the first 10 minutes, but then it's like watching paint dry. And depending on how many ballots we have, it can take half an hour and a half, depending on how many ballots they have. At the end of the machine count process, there's usually 5 or 10 ballots that can't be machine read. They had extra marks on them or they were torn or something. And there again, we need all 5 of us back on our Zoom at our end to adjudicate those envelopes and decide whether, we can read them and whether they count. So that's another sort of all 5 hands on deck.
What time? What time is it?
It depends on
the-
how many, well, one of the things I thought I was wanted to ask you tonight, I was thinking we could start at 7. And Jen, can you get off work that day early enough to join us by Zoom at 7? I know that's hard for you with your schedule.
If it's possible to do, is it possible to do 7:30, or does that have us
Sure.
too late into the night?
No, sure. The whole
Okay.
process shouldn't run more than 2 hours.
All right, that's probably
7:30?
better. Yeah.
Okay, is that okay with everybody else? Sean, Paul, Nomi? 7:30 on the 21st?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would it be appropriate to, for the staff, the working staff, to have name tags? Is that,
I think we haven't done that in the past, but we could. There's usually 3 or 4 guys doing that, so we could ask the electric staff to put on name tags. Sure.
yeah, I
All
think
the,
if we had nice, appropriate name tags,
for us, you mean?
that are working that night, yeah.
Yeah, for us, okay, yeah, we can do name tags for us for the Dropbox section. We should have name tags, and for the vote counting section, we can have name tags. Sure, that's easy
Okay.
for us to have name tags. Typically, when we do the vote counting session with Electec, we're not talking to the 3 or 4 guys who are in the room, like running the machine. We're talking to our contact person, Nikki, or in the past, Matt Lilly was the person we had as our contact. So there's also one person in charge of the process at Electec's side.
Yeah.
So I don't know that their staff would have name tags, but we will know the person that we are dealing with there because they'll be on the
Maybe
camera.
Michael could do the name tags.
Sure, absolutely, Michael.
Yeah,
I'm volunteering.
I have some name tags that I will have there for the election day. So you're more than welcome to those.
Okay,
Excellent.
okay.
Prepared as always, Michael. Okay,
No
great idea. Anything else about the vote counting session? Everybody got it? We'll start at 7:30. And, I expect frankly light voter turnout. So it might take less than an hour to do the whole thing. If you have 400 ballots cast, that generally is 2 hours plus. But if there's only 150 people voting total, I have no idea, but it is usually light in uncontested elections. It doesn't have to be a long evening. So any other questions about the vote counting on the 21st? Okay, we're agreed. We'll start at 7:30. And we'll work out the logistics. And of course, we'll give you an announcement, or a couple of announcements, Michael, to post to let the voters know that they can watch the process. Anything else on that? Okay, whipping right through our agenda here. It's 8:46. Any resident comments, questions, or suggestions? Susan, you still on the line? I don't see her.
Marty, I have one question.
Sure.
Do we think that we need to put out a bulletin or the village put out a bulletin that what's going on, the election and so forth, and ice cream truck and bring your ballots there, whatever. To me, it seems like it's been little low keyed on what's going to happen, or at least from my reading of the information in the bulletins. I don't know. It seems to be very low key. I think we need to blow it up a little bit, or maybe Michael can do a little better job. I'm not saying that he's not doing a bad job, but maybe he could, emphasize a little bit more. Maybe he's put out a special bulletin. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I just don't think that, from what I've seen, is enough pomp and circumstances to go along with the voting for that day. That's all.
Yeah, Michael and I talked earlier today briefly about the fact the village is going to put out a flyer. I guess the street captains will walk it around, Michael.
Yeah,
That says,
I have one
Okay.
right here. My street.
Oh,
captain
all right.
has it.
So you've already got it. Okay. Well, see, I haven't seen
Well,
it.
let me
Okay.
clarify. There's two flyers. There's the little handout flyer that just says celebration on the sidewalk that the community engagement committee is doing. There's another flyer that lists all the vendors that are going to be there. Marty reminded me today that you all want to put a line on it saying bring your ballots, signed ballots to drop off or something like that. So I'm gonna have that flyer finished this week, and it will be in the wrap up on Friday, and it will be in the newsletter on Wednesday, hopefully. Or at least your entire article about the election will be in the newsletter, and it'll be on the calendar in the newsletter. And we're definitely, for every event, for every meeting, we send out a standalone email as well. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of pushing from both committees and from just the village office's perspective.
that sounds great, Michael. Both flyers. Katie, the little one that you just held up, our committee needs to have something on both of those about the instructions to people to bring their signed, sealed ballot return envelopes, not their ballots, to the drop
Yeah.
box. So don't hand that one out if it doesn't have that clarification on it, because we don't want people showing up with just a ballot. We can't accept
Well,
it.
that flyer is the community engagement committee's flyer, so they already saw it and approved it. So if you want to do your own flyer, that would be on your committee to do that. And I'm happy to. I mean, some of the street captains already have those flyers, is what I'm saying.
Okay, we'd have to ask the street captain to distribute 2 flyers, which seems redundant.
It does.
I don't want to waste their time with an extra flyer if we can do it in one. Well, Michael, why don't you send around what you've got and let the committee take a look at it, and we can add our line on whatever we could do. And I guess I would ask not to distribute any more to the street captains of the flyer that doesn't have the election info on it, because that's not complete.
I see. Okay, we'll have to talk offline about that.
Well,
Yeah, okay.
ours haven't gone out yet, so if we do consolidate, I don't know how many I don't know if for the other streets the other street captains already distributed that first round, or
Because
I
I'm the
don't-
street
I don't
captain
know,
for
but they have
Chestnut,
been-
and I haven't gotten it. I didn't
Okay, yeah,
receive it as a
you
street captain for
haven't.
Chestnut.
Has anyone received, because we live on different streets throughout well, actually, you have 3 people on Chestnut. I'm sorry, my apologies. But Paul, have you received, or Naomi, have you received a flyer from your street captain yet? Because maybe we can just consolidate and get a new one to all the street captains. What do you
Yeah,
think?
reprint.
And then it will have everything, a one-stop shop with all of that right there.
Sure. Yeah, this is a little tricky coordinating this because it is 2
Mhm.
different events happening
Right,
side by
in
side.
tandem,
So
right. It is, yeah.
yeah. Sorry about that confusion, but we'll get it squared out. And don't worry, everyone in the village is going to know about this event. So
That's great.
I'll
Yeah.
And they
recycle
should
these
know what to bring.
papers. We'll use it as scratch paper for math homework. It's okay. It's all good. We won't put these out.
No papers ever wasted here.
No, no, it won't.
Okay, that's great. Good clarification. And John, thank you for bringing it up. And
Oh, and the
Michael, thank
the other thing for your table at election day, I will have like extra pens and things like that there. So if people you can check and remind people to sign the back of their envelope, before they drop it in.
Absolutely.
So
We will do that.
If they just bring it down there and haven't filled it out yet, you can make sure they do so.
We will throw our bodies in front of the drop box until they
Yeah.
sign the form on the back of the envelope. Okay, that's great, Michael. Again, good thinking, good preparation there. Anything else, team, before we wrap up tonight? Okay, I think that we should be really proud of ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I'm a tired cowgirl, but I'm looking forward to the 7th because that'll be fun. And our work will have paid off, I think, in one of the best elections this village has ever had. So that's not a comment on the candidates, it's a comment on the process.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you very much to everybody. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second? John seconds. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.